Are you searching for peace and healing that touches every part of your life, your body, soul, and spirit? Many live with pain, frustration, and a sense of hopelessness, feeling that true healing is out of reach. But what if the secret to healing has been right in front of you all along? Stay with me, and I'll reveal how God's miraculous power can restore you completely. Do you ever feel like the weight of the world is pressing down on you? Like every step you take is heavy, burdened by a pain that refuses to go away? Whether it's the sting of physical ailments or the deep scars of emotional wounds, it can feel as if healing is just a distant dream. You're not alone. Many of us carry pain that feels impossible to heal. It might be the chronic ache in your body that doctors can't fix. Or maybe it's the invisible wounds, grief, betrayal, or the emptiness of unanswered prayers. In those moments, it's easy to feel like God has forgotten you. But let me share something that might give you hope. God has not forgotten you, and He never will. Let's take a moment to reflect on a powerful story from the Bible. The story of the woman with the issue of blood. This woman suffered from a physical affliction for 12 long years. She had spent everything she had on doctors, yet her condition only grew worse. Can you imagine her despair? The frustration of seeking help only to find none? The exhaustion of carrying a burden that seemed impossible to heal? But then she heard about Jesus. She didn't have an invitation or assurance that He would see her. Still, she believed. In the crowd, weak and desperate, she told herself, "If I just touch His clothes, I will be healed." And she did. As her trembling fingers brushed His garment, immediately, her bleeding stopped. The pain she had endured for years vanished. Jesus, knowing what had happened, turned and said, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." This story isn't just about her. It's about us too. Like her, we may feel unworthy, overlooked, or too broken to be made whole. But God's healing power doesn't depend on who we are. It depends on who He is. Your pain, no matter how deep, is not beyond His reach. The same Jesus who healed that woman still performs miracles today. Maybe you've been praying for healing, and it feels like nothing is happening. Or maybe you've given up hope altogether. But God's timing is perfect, and His power is limitless. The pain you're carrying doesn't define you. It's a chapter in your story, not the ending. God sees your tears, hears your prayers, and feels your pain. He is the healer of the brokenhearted and the restorer of all things. So today, I challenge you to take a step of faith. Reach out, whether through prayer, surrender, or simply believing that healing is possible. Like the woman in the crowd, your act of faith could be the very touch that brings you peace and freedom. When you're struggling with physical or emotional wounds, it can feel like all the pieces of your life are out of sync. Healing, it seems, is just beyond your grasp. But what if the key to healing lies not in just one part of you, your body, mind, or spirit, but in aligning all three together, in perfect harmony? The truth is, divine healing isn't just a miracle that happens when you receive a prayer or take medicine. It's the result of a deep alignment between your body, mind, and spirit, allowing God's transformative power to flow freely through every part of you. Let's start with your mind. In times of pain and struggle, your thoughts can become heavy with fear, doubt, and frustration. You may find yourself asking, "Why hasn't my healing come yet?" Or, "Am I even worthy of healing?" But what if the healing you seek begins in your thoughts? The Bible tells us, Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This isn't just about positive thinking. It's about aligning your thoughts with God's truth. Instead of dwelling on the pain or the situation, fix your eyes on the promises of healing He has made to you. Declare that you are worthy of healing because you are His beloved child. Believe that God is a healer, and His love for you is unfailing. Next, consider your body. The body is God's temple, and it's through our bodies that we experience the physical world, including pain. But when we're out of alignment, when our bodies are drained, exhausted, or in pain, it can be difficult to receive the healing God has for us. This doesn't mean that you need to have perfect health to experience healing, but it's about treating your body with respect. Take moments to rest, to nourish yourself, and to engage in acts of care, even small ones. When you honor your body, you create a space where healing can flow. God designed your body to be resilient, but it needs your cooperation to heal. Sometimes that means listening to what your body needs, whether it's rest, exercise, or medical care, and trusting that God works through all avenues. Finally, your spirit, the very core of who you are, holds the key to unlocking divine healing. Your spirit is your connection to God. But when your spirit is burdened by sin, unforgiveness, or fear, it can block the flow of God's healing power. Healing can't fully take place when your spirit is weighed down. That's why it's so important to cultivate a deep, trusting relationship with God. Spend time in prayer, worship, and reflection. Ask God to heal your spirit, to release anything that holds you back from His perfect peace. Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Matthew 11 verse 28. Allow your spirit to rest in His peace, and you will find healing in ways you never imagined. Aligning your mind, body, and spirit isn't always easy, especially when you're in pain. But when you choose to focus on God's truth, care for your body, and nurture your spirit, you are creating a space where divine healing can take place. Your healing is already in motion. You just have to be open to receiving it. So today, make a decision. Align your mind, body, and spirit with God's healing power. Trust in His ability to restore you completely, and remember that with Him, all things are possible. Your healing is closer than you think. What if the key to your healing isn't something you have to chase or find? It's already within you, waiting for the moment you decide to believe. Imagine that the very faith you carry, no matter how small, could unlock a divine power that transforms not just your physical body, but your heart, your mind, and your entire life. When you're facing pain, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, it's easy to think that healing comes from somewhere outside of you. You might search for answers in doctors, in medicines, or in external solutions. But what if the real change you're seeking begins within? What if it's your faith that has the potential to shift everything, right here and right now? Faith isn't about having everything figured out or understanding every step of the process. It's about trust. It's about believing that God, in His infinite power and love, has the ability to heal, restore, and transform, even when the odds seem impossible. Take a moment to reflect on the moments in your life when faith has carried you through difficult times. Perhaps you've faced challenges that seemed insurmountable, situations that left you feeling hopeless. Yet, even in those moments, there was a whisper of belief, just a flicker, that carried you through. That spark of faith is more powerful than you might realize. When you trust that God is with you in your pain, you're opening the door for miracles to enter. Faith is like a bridge between your current reality and the supernatural. It's the vessel that invites God's healing power to work within you. Think about it. God doesn't need perfect circumstances to perform miracles. He doesn't require a life free of flaws or challenges to step in and restore. All He needs is your willingness to believe, your readiness to surrender, and your openness to receive. That's where miracles begin, not in the perfect setting, but in the heart of someone who dares to trust in God's promises. Perhaps you've felt like healing is out of reach. The pain you've experienced, whether physical illness, emotional scars, or spiritual wounds, has left you feeling defeated. But faith doesn't require perfection. It only requires your willingness to step forward, even if it's just one small step at a time. Every step you take toward trusting God is a step toward transformation. Remember that God's miracles don't just heal the body, they heal the soul. When you place your trust in Him, you're not just asking for physical restoration. You're inviting a deeper, more profound healing that touches every part of your being. Your faith can bring peace to a troubled mind, joy to a weary heart, and strength to a broken spirit. Your belief in God's power is not a passive hope. It's an active force that can shift the course of your life. It's the force that moves mountains and opens doors that you never thought possible. When you truly believe in His ability to heal, to restore, and to transform, you create an environment where God's miracles can flow freely through you. So, ask yourself, could your faith in God unlock the miracle that changes everything? Could it transform your entire being in ways you never thought possible? The answer is yes. Your faith is the key. It's time to unlock the power that lies within you and step into the transformation that awaits. Have you ever felt like there's more for you? More peace, more healing, more hope, but the path to it feels unclear, uncertain, or even too distant to reach? You look around, and it seems like others have found the answers, while you're stuck in a cycle of waiting, wondering if you'll ever experience the miracles you've been praying for. But what if the first step toward a life-changing miracle isn't something that will happen in the future? It's something you can take right now, today. What if the only thing holding you back from the breakthrough you've been longing for is one simple decision? The decision to step forward in faith, no matter how uncertain the path may seem. The truth is, God's miracles don't require perfection. They require obedience and trust. They don't need a flawless plan. They need a willing heart. And sometimes, that first step toward receiving God's life-changing miracles begins with letting go of doubt and fear and simply believing that He is able to do what seems impossible. Think about the moments in your life when you've hesitated, when you've stood at the edge of something beautiful, but fear held you back. Maybe it was a dream you've wanted to chase, but you convinced yourself you weren't ready. Or perhaps it was a healing you've needed, but you didn't know if you were worthy to receive it. The same thing happens in our spiritual lives. We hesitate to step toward God's miracles, doubting whether we're good enough, whether He'll show up for us, or whether the miracle will even come. But the reality is, every miracle in the Bible started with a step. The blind man who was healed had to take a step of faith and wash in the pool of Siloam. The lame man had to rise and walk when Jesus told him, "Get up and walk." The woman with the issue of blood had to press through the crowd and reach out to touch the hem of Jesus' garment. In each of these instances, healing didn't just come from waiting in the same spot. It came from taking an active step, no matter how small, toward the miracle. The moment they moved forward, God met them in their faith and responded with a transformation. Now, Imagine what could happen if you took that first step today. What would your life look like if you allowed God's healing power to flow through you? If you trusted that He has the ability to change your circumstances? The first step doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. It could be a simple prayer of surrender, a moment of worship, or a decision to believe that your miracle is possible. But that step, whatever it looks like for you, can be the beginning of something incredible. Your miracle might not look exactly like you expect it to. It might not happen all at once. But the key is this: every step you take toward God, no matter how small, is a step toward healing, toward breakthrough, toward a life transformed. Are you ready to take that first step? The miracles God has for you are waiting, but they require your movement. Step out in faith today, and watch as God begins to work in your life in ways you've only dreamed of. You're closer to your miracle than you think. Perhaps you've spent years looking for answers to heal the wounds of your body and soul, trying everything from treatments and therapies to prayers and affirmations, only to find yourself feeling as though you've come up empty. The frustration builds, and it feels like no matter where you turn, the healing you so desperately desire remains elusive. But what if, all along, the secret to true healing was closer than you ever imagined? What if the very answer you've been longing for, the key to restoring both your physical health and your emotional well-being, was hidden within you, and within the connection you have with the one who created you? It's easy to believe that healing comes from external sources. We look for cures in medicines, relief in advice, and comfort in the latest trends or treatments. And while these things can play a role, the real healing, the deep transformative kind that touches every part of your being, often starts from within. But how many of us have truly considered this? How many of us have paused long enough to believe that the divine healing we seek is not far away, but waiting for us to align ourselves with it? True healing is a spiritual process, not just a physical one. Our bodies, minds, and spirits are intricately connected, and one cannot heal without the others being in harmony. When you're in pain, whether it's the relentless ache of an illness or the deep, invisible scars of emotional trauma, it can feel like nothing is ever going to change. The weight of it seems like it will never lift, and the healing seems too far away. But the truth is, healing begins when we allow ourselves to believe in something greater than the pain. Healing begins when we acknowledge that God, the creator of all, has designed us for restoration, not just of our bodies, but of our hearts and minds. He created us to heal, to be whole, to live abundantly. His power isn't distant, it's closer than you think. What if the secret to healing your body and soul lies in embracing the divine presence that surrounds you? What if it's in surrendering your pain, whatever it may be, and trusting that God can work through it to bring about a restoration you never thought possible? Healing doesn't require perfection. It requires surrender. It requires trust in something beyond what you can see or understand. It requires the willingness to let go of the control you've tried so desperately to hold on to and place it in the hands of the one who knows you better than you know yourself. The miracle you seek is not far from you. It is waiting for you to open your heart to the possibility of divine intervention. The path to healing might not be an easy one, and it may take time, but you are not alone on this journey. Each step you take toward faith, each moment you spend in prayer, each time you allow God to work in your life, you are bringing yourself closer to the healing that is already yours to claim. Maybe you've heard about God's incredible promises of healing, peace, and restoration, but despite your deepest desires, something still feels out of reach. You may have prayed, hoped, and even fought for healing in your body, mind, and spirit, yet the sense of total restoration, the peace that surpasses all understanding, seems to elude you. The truth is, for many of us, it's not that God's promises are untrue or impossible, but rather that something within us is preventing those promises from fully manifesting in our lives. The barrier isn't always something visible. It can be something deep inside, something you may not even fully understand. Sometimes, it's a feeling of unworthiness that causes us to doubt that such miracles could happen for us. Other times, it's the weight of past hurts and disappointments that keep us chained to the past, unable to move forward into God's perfect plan for our future. Whatever it is, it's holding us back from receiving the fullness of God's restoration. One of the most powerful forces that can stand between us and God's promises is a lack of belief. Not just belief in God's existence, but belief in His goodness, His timing, and His ability to heal, restore, and deliver us. Perhaps you've heard about miracles happening in other people's lives, but the thought that those same miracles could happen for you feels distant. Perhaps you've endured long periods of pain or hardship, and with each passing year, your hope has slowly dimmed. It's hard to believe in something when you've been waiting for so long, isn't it? But that lack of belief doesn't have to define you. Belief is not a perfect, unwavering certainty. It's simply the decision to trust, even when the evidence isn't in front of you. God is not waiting for you to have perfect faith. He is waiting for you to take the first step toward trust. And that step can change everything. Another invisible force that can block us from receiving God's total restoration is unforgiveness. Unforgiveness, whether toward others or ourselves, creates a wall between us and God's healing power. It's easy to hold on to the pain others have caused us, to replay the hurts over and over, to nurse the bitterness like a wound that never heals. But the truth is, that bitterness does nothing to the other person. It only hurts you. If you've been holding on to grudges or resentments, it's time to let go. Unforgiveness chains us to the past and keeps us from moving forward into the freedom and peace God has for us. Forgiveness doesn't mean that what was done to you was right or just. It means releasing the grip of anger and hurt, choosing to trust that God will deal with those who have wronged you. It's freeing yourself from the shackles of the past, so you can fully embrace the life that God has planned for you. Fear is another silent thief that steals our ability to receive all that God has promised. Fear can take many forms. Fear of what might happen if we let go of control. Fear of failure. Fear of the future. Fear of making the wrong choice. This fear keeps us trapped in a cycle of hesitation and uncertainty, never fully stepping into the fullness of what God has for us. We may want healing, but the thought of change, the unknown, feels terrifying. What would life look like without the pain, the struggle, the comfort zone of what we've known? Sometimes, our fears are not just about the pain of the present, but about what we're being called to leave behind in order to receive God's best. But here's the beautiful truth. God's promises are not meant to harm you or overwhelm you. They are meant to give you peace, healing, and restoration. Trusting Him is the key to unlocking the future He has planned for you. Past disappointments can also hold us back from receiving God's promise of total restoration. Maybe you've prayed for healing before, only to find yourself still sick. Maybe you've believed for a breakthrough, but nothing happened. The weight of past letdowns can make it difficult to have the faith that God will come through this time. But the absence of an answer in the past does not define God's ability to move in the present. God's ways are higher than ours, and His timing is perfect, even when we don't understand it. Our past disappointments are not indications of God's lack of love for us. They are simply part of a larger story that God is writing in our lives. You may feel unworthy or too broken to receive God's full restoration. But hear this: God's promises are not based on your perfection. They are based on His grace. He knows your struggles, your doubts, and your pain. He is not waiting for you to have everything figured out before He acts. His love and grace are unconditional. He is calling you to step forward in faith, to trust Him in spite of the pain, the fear, and the doubts. The first step in receiving God's total restoration is surrendering all of it to Him. It's choosing to believe that He can heal the deepest wounds, repair the broken places, and bring restoration where there seems to be none. Restoration doesn't mean you'll go back to who you were before the pain. It means God will bring you to a new place, better, stronger, and more whole than you could ever imagine. It's a promise that extends beyond just healing your body or mind. It's about restoring your very soul. The journey toward God's total restoration doesn't happen overnight, but it begins with a decision to trust. It starts with a willingness to release the things that have been holding you back and to open your heart to receive His healing. It's not easy. It requires letting go of fear, doubt, unforgiveness, and the weight of past hurts. But it's worth it. God has an incredible life for you, one filled with peace, joy, and abundant healing. Are you ready to receive God's promise of total restoration? The path forward is waiting for you. It's time to step into the life He has for you, free from the chains of the past, and embrace the healing He longs to pour into every part of you. Trust in His timing. Trust in His love. And trust that He is able to restore everything you've lost and more. Your journey toward restoration begins now. Amen.